Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Q&Ray. Today I am joined by JM, John Michael from Maine.
Hey everybody.
JM, I met you last August when I was visiting your now wife's gym
That's
uh,
right.
at
CrossFit 6.
196,
It
home of the
was your
Small
very
Donkey.
first seminar.
What was
I think
that?
it was your very first seminar. I think the first time you had taught, at least, right? Yeah.
It was my very first, yes, my very first Stronghold mentoring movement workshop. My first one doing
That's
my own thing. And that was cool. So I'm really glad I got to do that. And remember, I was just looking at the other day at, remember our 40-minute walkthrough LL Bean?
Yeah, of course I do.
That was
Yeah,
awesome.
yeah. It's one of the gems of Maine, right? And it's open 24 hours a day. It's one of the few things that it's like, oh, it's past 8 o'clock. What can we do? Let's go check out LL Bean, right?
It's
So
amazing. And if you guys are curious, I'll post a link in the description to our 40-minute walkthrough. I literally just walked around my phone and we did like a walkthrough of all the things we looked at. That place is expansive. There's so much to do.
when I was a boy, that blew my mind, right? Going up there, it's a small state, man. We don't have a lot of stuff like that. So at 17, sneaking in at 11 o'clock with my buddies, that's a fun adventure for teenagers. So I
It
love
was
LLB.
it was fun for me. Now I'm 30. I was 39 at the time.
Right, yeah.
Well, cool, Jam. How can I help you today?
Well, let's see, Coach. Uh, I've married Rachel, and to help pull my weight for the family business. I'm trying to become a CrossFit coach. I
Okay.
took the level 1 and failed the written exam. So I potentially would like your advice on how to study for it again, but that seems more under like you don't ask questions that you could Google, and I think I know how to study for a test. So I'm more interested in what you imagine my first year as a CrossFit coach, or at least a guy trying to pitch in around a CrossFit gym being. I always wanted to be a good CrossFitter. I didn't plan on being a coach, especially, but I love working with people. And I do coach, I've coached other stuff in the past, and I do coach an adaptive track team. So it's exciting and it'll be fun to get into. And I'm interested in what you think would be the smart steps an early CrossFit coach could take to success.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go back to the first question on how to pass the test. Was that your first part of the question?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. I don't.
Did, did you get any feedback on what you needed to study more of?
They give you a breakdown of exactly question by question, and I think for the movement questions, I think I got about 75% of those. It was mostly in the stuff around the sides that I need to work on. You posted something the other day about what are you when you take your CrossFit level 1, and I know that's one of the questions that I got hung up on. Right? They
Hmm.
mentioned it, and I'd read the book front to back, but that was just one of those things I didn't file away. So I think
Okay.
I just need to. I've already made flashcards, and the other coaches that she had a series of coaches get their level 1 recently, so they all were really supportive, and we're already working on stuff on how to get me ready. So I
Okay.
think I can take that test.
Yeah, so you feel like it was just kind of like the other stuff in the material that you didn't quite cover?
I, I'm dyslexic to an extent, not super heavily, but to an extent. I'm a good test taker, and usually I can. When you look at the 4 options, you go, "Oh, 2 of those are silly," and it's between the 2. And let me think about it for a while. I'll come back to that. And I did that for number 4, number 5, number 6. It's like, oh, I'm gonna have to come back and redo all of these. So I think I just need to master the wording a little better. I've been immersed in the CrossFit world, and it was such a great weekend of CrossFit. I had all 3 of the instructors help me improve on a bunch of stuff, and they
Cool.
were all very. I think your mentoring through Rachel means she's mentoring. I think I had pretty strong form in the room. It was just when it came time to know the differences in the GHDs, right? That was it's like, oh, that's
Okay.
right.
Yeah. So more of the
But
subtle things, more of the subtle things it seems like.
hopefully,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, the best advice I can give you is just review the material again.
absolutely,
And
yeah,
that's pretty much it. If you ever have any questions, you know where to find me. Just send me some text
yeah.
messages and stuff.
You got it.
Um, but yeah, as far as your other question, how to get better as a coach, number one, practice, practice, practice.
Sure.
Number two, watch other people who are coaching. One of the most valuable things that I ever did when I was learning to be a coach was I started driving up to Coach Bergner's house every Wednesday, and I would just sit there and watch him coach. And I would look at the person move, and then I would look at him, and I would listen to see what he'd say. And then I would make a mental note. Did I see that? If I didn't see that, I'm going to look for it next time.
Right.
And there's the biggest thing I would say is lacking in the CrossFit community as a whole is good eyes to see and correct movement.
Yeah, that was definitely where I would be most nervous if staring at a new athlete, right? I would be fine if I saw something, I'd be fine in telling them. It's just, yeah, that makes a lot
Yeah.
of sense that the eye has to be trained. So get
Yeah.
to work on that.
Yeah, you can't fix what you can't see. So,
Right.
one thing that I would do too is I would come up with a system of looking at people. So, the first thing I look at is I look at their feet.
Okay.
What are the feet doing? Are they in the right
Cool.
place?
Are
Are
they
they
connected? Are they lifting while they're moving? Are they lifting their toes or heels? And,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
moving up. Then I'm sure you could take that from if the feet are good, you look at the ankles and then the knees, and then that could be a way right there. I'm sure there are different ways, but travel up the body and make a decision about each part.
Yep.
That makes
One
a
thing that I think they mentioned in level one a little bit more, but more in the level two, we talked about the 6 criteria of effective coaching, right? They talked about teaching, seeing, correcting, presence and attitude, group management, and demonstration. So we mentioned that at the level one during the second workout, but we really focus on that the entire weekend at the level two. I would first, as far as teaching the movement, I would learn the movement backwards and forwards.
right.
So know the points of performance, know why they're important, and then when you teach the movements, basically pick one point of performance per step that you're teaching and highlight that to the people you're teaching, and then focus on the associated fault for that. Um,
So every movement's going to have points of. Did you say point of focus?
Points of
Right.
performance.
So performance. I'm sorry. Yeah. So the overhead squat is always going to have at least the same 4 things you look for, or whatever.
7.
7. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you
Do you
recall
have?
from your level one lecture, there were 5 points of performance for the air squat, right?
Sure.
Do you remember what they were?
No, sir. No.
Okay. So we look at midline stabilization. That's the first one. Then we looked at heels. Then we looked at depth. We looked at line of action, and we looked at the knees and the toes tracking the same direction, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So
That's
those
all
are the
stuff I
five
would know,
ones.
do myself and look for, I think, in an athlete, but to rattle off the 5 there, right? And you see it in me failing the test,
Yeah,
right?
you got to know the movement, and those are all
Or-
listed. If you look at there's 2 sections in the level one guide where there's like this one big list of how to squat. It's on page 105, and those are all included in that list. And then
right.
there's other parts in the back of the book where it talks about the points of performance of the squat. So know those points of performance, and then also know the associated faults for them.
Sure.
So whenever I'm teaching a movement, I'll focus on one point. I'll say, hey guys, at this set of reps, I just want to know if you know where the bottom of the squat's supposed to be. And then and I tell them that's all I'm looking at right now. And
So
see if they can do it.
I was hoping to take away a few like simple things I could master and move forward better. And if I could get those down, that would be a great starting point, is what it seems like. Go through all of the movements and
Yes.
learn all 5 of those spots on the air squat that you need to keep your eyes on, which, yeah,
Yeah.
that'd be a very cool starting point.
And then the movements that have progressions, know the progressions and know why those steps are there.
Of course, right. Yeah.
I
Boy,
cannot tell you how many people we get at the level two seminar who show up and don't know the progression for the push press. And we ask them to teach the push press and they're done in like 3 minutes. And I'm like, what?
right.
You know, movements as simple as a shoulder press, okay? You should be able to teach the shoulder press for at least 15 minutes.
Right.
If you
That makes
can't, that means you probably don't see the subtle faults that are going on. And if you
sure.
can't fix them in the shoulder press, you sure as hell are not seeing them in the push press, the push jerk, or the split jerk. You know, there's just so many things. Like we mentioned that in the squat lecture. You know, every movement is taught as a big progression, and anything that you like, your success down the line is going to be dependent on your success in the beginning movements.
Of
And
course,
if you're
right.
stuck at those things, you're going to be punished later down the line.
Right.
So getting really good at understanding the points of performance, for example, the shoulder press. You know, when I teach the shoulder press, I teach them the setup first. Just where your feet supposed to go, where are your hands supposed to be, where's the bar supposed to be, and I just highlight the setup. I could spend easily 2-3 minutes there. Just
I, I
get
think
everyone.
every time we pick up a bar at the gym, we go through all of those moments, right? She talks about all of those things, where you're setting up your body, where your hands are on the bar. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah,
And that could talk about it for a few minutes, right? Everybody's different, and it deserves explaining to people, you know.
Hmm.
And
Yeah, and then like just breaking down that simple movement, you can go at least 50 repetitions in the beginning of class to make sure everyone knows how to do the thing. So the first set of reps, I just want to see them set up and then relax. And then I'll say, okay, all I want to see now is, do you know where the bar, where overhead is? Because inevitably you'll get people who will push the bar in front of them, a lot of people who put the bar way far behind their heads. And so I just want to see, do they know where overhead is? Do they have that body awareness to know that the bar is actually overhead or not? And when
right,
people have PVC pipe, oftentimes they're like, well, I need more weight to feel it. Like, no, you just need to practice and learn how to feel it. So that's the second set of reps. Where's overhead? And then after that, I look, can they put it overhead and have an active shoulder? And
right.
then can they put it overhead with an active shoulder and also have their ribs down and tight so their abs are on the entire time? Then I look, can they do all that by and still push the bar up in a straight line? And then after all that, can they bring the bar down in a straight line? So
Right.
you see how I've created the setup position. I've shown them where the end position is, and then I fix everything in between. So we call that layering. So you have the points of performance, and it's like a 5-layer cake. You put the first layer down, you put the next layer down, you put the next layer down, and then finally you have this big complete cake.
Right. As you go through all those steps, that is something that I need to be corrected on. Every one of those is something that I could lose myself. Right. So, as you're talking, is it, I'm trying to cover my ears is the way I think of getting it directly overhead. And that took me a long time to figure out. The weight, I would let it carry it back, or I didn't know it was in front of me. And the ribs down, that never stops. Right. If I play around the ribs, for me, I can lose my rib positioning and have to keep correcting it.
Yep.
So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so simple things like that, like learning the movements, how to teach them. And
Right.
then when you have a good roadmap of how to teach a movement, then every step of that roadmap, you're looking for the associated faults. If you're not looking, you're not going to see them. And if you try to look at too many things at once, you'll see nothing. So
Right.
that's
That
the
would be a
importance
good.
of looking at one thing at a time.
Right. As I look at all of these points of performance, you mentioned knowing your starting point, and that'd be a good thing to go rule out each step one at a time and
Yep.
go, don't lose yourself in the athlete being all over the place. You need to think about one thing at a time. Just like in speaking to the athlete, you can only talk about one thing at a time for both of your sakes, right? I can't coach more than one thing, and the athlete can't learn more than one thing at a time.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
What other questions do you have?
I wanted to figure out a way to start talking about nutrition more, or I don't know, I've been benefiting from it. How can I engage the room in that better? Or what are simple things that I
Uh,
should think about as a coach when I talk to athletes? Or I don't know.
well, depending on your state, you have to be careful about whether or not you're even able to give nutrition advice. You can give
Sure.
guidelines for sure most of the time. Um, I think the biggest mistake that people do when they try to start something new nutritionally is they try to do too much too soon.
Sure.
They
Okay.
try to go cold turkey, or they try to like do something super extreme and then it doesn't last. So
Right.
it's like the first
Focus
thing
it down on something simple and stupid. Maybe that
yeah,
I've got a guy at work that's really trying to change his whole life, and he's just buying all sorts of different health products. And I know he's just chaotically all over the place. And to me, I go like simple, like real foods, right? I mean, that's what CrossFit teaches us is,
right.
they're not teaching paleo, but close to it is what they were talking. And
That's only one option. The big thing with nutrition is it's a really, really mixed bag because everyone's different and everyone responds differently. So the big thing, the overarching theme for it all is helping people find what works best for them. And the best way that I found to do that is to make small adjustments incrementally. A simple one would be, hey, no carbs after 6 p.m.
right,
Because your body don't need carbs after 6 p.m. Like you think of carbs as ready fuel for your body to do something. You don't actually need to be fueling yourself to go to sleep. That's actually counterproductive. That's a good way to just put on unwanted weight.
right. So maybe talk about like, he was asking me what I thought he should do. And I was saying just pick one area of your life and make sure that's the real kind of healthy and you like it, you can keep it up, and
Yeah,
then forever make that a healthy thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess that's close to starting small, right? I talked coffee. I forever gave up sugar, and it's just like, oh, over the years, it's probably been a decade. It's like that's a lot of calories I didn't need. So that's what I brought up, and small makes sense. That I know it keeps together. For a long time as a CrossFitter, I work with my wife, so she'll tell me I'm doing things wrong, and I just wanted to push through it. And I was using my body wrong, and that's what they lecture us directly on: is don't waste time using your body wrong. And so trying to relearn everything and do it properly and correct is where I'm trying to focus, I guess.
Yeah, one of the first lessons I learned from Coach B is don't coach your spouse.
Yeah, right. That was why I reached out to you when I saw the opportunity. Is I can somebody who can guide me and you spoke earlier about finding someone to work with, I think, and it made me think of, I have buddies that coach. I just hadn't thought of them yet.
Mm-hmm.
I should figure out a way to network with my buds and maybe try to mentor up through that regard as well.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for you, if you can, is to watch other people coach, especially the ones who are more experienced than you. And
Sure.
just be a fly on the wall and figure out who you are as a coach. Like,
Right.
don't try to be somebody else. For a long time, I tried to be a mix of Carl Powley, Kelly Starrett, Mike Bergner, and it wasn't until I decided to just be me is when I
Right.
actually start to blossom and kind of get into my place and figure out the types of people I want to coach too. I think that's
Sure.
cool that you coach adaptive athletes. That's a special niche that is definitely something in demand and that we need a lot more of. So
Right.
I would start thinking one thing I encourage every coach to do is number one to come up with a vision statement. Like who are you? Like what do you hope to accomplish as a coach? Like your vision statement is what you want to see happen in the future. Your mission statement is next, and how are you going to do that thing? And then
Right.
what are your core values?
Well, that definitely, when I look to my adaptive coaching, I think I'm pretty good at treating the kids the way I would anybody else, even if they've got something going on right in your face. It's a big deal, and a lot of people would remark on it or treat them differently. And
Mhm.
I hope, as I look at CrossFit, I want to apply that to, you see plenty of people coming in that are real nervous, right? And I hope I could apply the same things to my athletes that are new to CrossFit, or, you dream of, it's maybe that's not the right way to say it. We dream of the super obese coming in and changing their lives, right? I would love to turn some couch potatoes into athletes like I think I did for myself. Video games made me soft, and I got to turn that around, and not everybody gets that opportunity. And maybe if I'm a coach, I can get, it'd be cool to pay that forward to somebody else.
Do you
But
feel more excited about working with the dangerously obese than the people who are athletes?
Uh, yeah, sort of. Yes, I do. Yeah, I would like to really make, like, wouldn't it be cool to take somebody that I see on a destructive path and just bend it a little bit healthier? You know what a difference losing 40 pounds makes in somebody's knees going up a flight of stairs, right? Like,
Hmm.
that's what I wanted, just to let a few people be able to roll around with their grandkids a little more. That's a cool thing to accomplish. I see it in my wife. She gets to do it to people all the time, right? If you stick with CrossFit and you find where you are, like you adapt it to you, and you stick with it, it really does change lives. So I guess I would hope, I know it works. A lot of people know CrossFit works. I would hope, I would love to just pull a couple of people into it with my ability to talk to people, I'm not good with everybody, but the people I am good with, it'd be cool if I get a couple people into the gym. So
That's
I
what
don't know.
excites me about CrossFit too. I don't really care about the elite athletes. That doesn't excite me very
Yeah,
much.
right.
Um,
No way.
in fact, there's one special initiative that CrossFit was doing. I don't know if they're still doing it, but they're pushing it pretty heavily a year or two ago, and it was this thing called the Underserved. And the basic idea was they wanted anyone who was too fat, too old, too scared to do CrossFit to come do CrossFit, and they
Yeah.
offered it for free. It started off as like 2 days a week, and it ended up blowing up, and now they do it multiple times a day. It's at the old headquarters building in Santa Cruz. Um, the home office has moved to Colorado, but the old headquarters that what we called it is back in Santa Cruz, and there are people who went through there who had never left the ground with both feet in like 2 decades. You know, people who can't jump, they
Yeah,
physically can't jump. They were able to take people who never left the ground with both feet in over 2 decades and were able to help them jump. One lady went there because she was too overweight for gastric bypass. So she went in there just for a specific purpose of losing enough weight to do gastric bypass. And she ended
right.
up
My
not
God.
doing gastric bypass because she lost more weight doing CrossFit than she would have done doing gastric bypass.
Why would you
So,
ever bring a surgeon into the mix when you can do it yourself with a little bit of eating right and moving and being around people that are, of similar minds? That's so, the idea of, I know people that have really not come back right from surgeries, not gastric bypass, but, why roll the dice when you could just, oh, that's a cool story, right? And the
yeah,
jump, the people that haven't jumped in decades, I've seen that already, isn't it? People are terrified to leave the ground. I've seen people that won't jump onto a weight plate, even though they're clearing the ground by 6 inches. They think they're not making it onto a weight plate, and
yeah,
that also shows you what little understanding they have of their body, right? They don't know what they're piloting around the world. So,
yeah.
uh,
That
and if
is, go ahead, sorry.
well, that's exactly, it's different than the super obese. But if you can get someone who hasn't jumped in decades to realize, like, oh, I can jump 14 inches, like that would be as cool a win as the super obese guy losing 60 pounds, right? Or different, but as exciting.
Yeah. If you have the time and you have the means to do this, as a new coach, I would encourage you to coach as many people as you possibly can. Get a lot of practice in. Don't be afraid to fail because you will. And
Right.
that's where you learn. But I think
Yeah.
it'd be neat if you could find like one or two people who would never ever do CrossFit and offer to them for free, like, hey, I'm a brand new coach. I just need to practice. Would you be willing to come in twice a week and let me practice with you? I will do it for free as long as you're consistent. And
Right.
set those constraints. Like there needs to be some sort of buy-in for them. Like, hey, I will do this for free as long as you come in twice a week. You don't complain. Like we're just gonna you're just I'm just gonna try to win your trust and hopefully we can make something happen. That would might be a fun thing to do if you're willing
Uh,
to do that.
I think that sounds very fun, right? Like, I wanted to talk to you about short, middle, and long term goals, right? So I go points of performance, mastering those would be a great short term goal. And
Yes.
then midterm goal, finding an athlete or three that would, hey, you work with me, it'll be free, but you are accountable to me. My time's valuable. Don't jerk me around. Like if you say you're going to be there, be there.
Yeah.
But I really want to like bring this cool thing into your world if you'll let me. So
Yeah.
that sounds like a cool midterm goal, right? And then long term is just try to keep up with Coach Rachel, right? She's good at what she does. She's very, very, very good at what she does,
Well,
and
the thing
part of
with
that's
Rachel
because
is
of you.
that she cares. That's the biggest thing. And I think for you, um, a good long term goal would be to start answering the question, who am I? Like, what's my vision? What's my mission? What are my core values? Because who you are is where what you're gonna do is gonna overflow from. What I do every day, what I do with intention every single day is a direct overflow of who I am. And because I know who I am, because I know who my niche market is, because I know the type of people that I want to serve, I'm not running around with my head cut off.
Right.
I'm a lot more intentional with my time. And so that is something that I've developed over the last 10 years of coaching. And it's one of those things where it's going to start off super wide, like I'm encouraging you to start coaching whoever and whenever, but you're going to start to get super narrow, super narrow, super narrow, super narrow, super narrow. And I'm coming to realize that my target market is very small. I mean, you know me well enough to know that I'm not the type of person who's going to coddle your ego. I'm going to tell you how it is,
Right.
and not everyone is okay with that. I'm kind of a an acquired taste for some people, and a lot of people find me abrasive and judgy. And I'm just like, well, you're just not ready for it, and that's okay.
Yeah.
Go do your
Sure.
thing. I'll be here when you're ready. So
I would
that's something that I've
rather.
developed over time because now I know who I am. So I think as a long-term goal for you, I would start with who do I want to coach and why. Always start with why.
And I think you got me pointed kind of down. I'm naturally inclined to like, I want to help the guy that maybe wouldn't, the underdog, or maybe somebody who doesn't want to be there naturally.
Yeah.
And that takes a lot of forms, right? I'm talking about a whole lot of people. It doesn't, I'm not. And it would be, it's exciting. It's really exciting. When I was at the level 1, and it was so fast going from, I was not planning on doing anything like this. And it was 3 weeks out about when Rachel was like, well, I'm sending 5 other people, like, do it, go sign up. Like, and that was an adrenaline rush. And when I was there and the concept of actually working with people, it was so exciting. And I'm really excited to dive into this. And they're sending me home for COVID. I work at a college and they're home for winter, so I get a lot of time off. So it's like, all right, let's go learn the points of performance, and then figure out who in my life needs to be moving a little bit more than they are, and
Yeah.
find those athletes.
Yeah, one thing I found to be really successful is to just present it as, hey, I'm learning. Would you let me practice with you?
Sure.
I'm doing movement assessments now, and for a while I was offering them for free. Just like, hey, you know what? I've been part of this mentoring program for 2 years. I should be at about 200 assessments right now. I've done about 40. Would you let me practice with you? And it's been a really great opportunity to kind of just exercise the things that I've learned. And then when you're doing those things, I want you to grade yourself afterwards. So you have 3 questions to ask yourself after every session. Number 1, what did I do well? Number 2, what could I do better? And then number 3, what will I do differently next time?
I work 2 different jobs at work, and one of them, we have a meeting before and after every major event. And it's just so nice talking about just about what do we do well, what can we do better, and it makes sense that when I work with an athlete, I need to think about what I did and, where were the lessons in today's workout. And then what was the last thing? This is a cool idea for me, working with athletes in a small group, because Rachel's always talked to her coaches that if you ever want to take on, your own private lessons, like, you're always welcome to, and nobody really has. So if I were to take on a few athletes and make a little stable, and we talked about them being free, but like that, if maybe in stepping into that water, I could help some of her other coaches do that, and the business could start a whole new chapter of the way it deals with athletes, right? Because nobody's doing personal stuff. And if, so it would be exciting if this could maybe start something for the gym, But.
Yeah, you could even start doing privates or one-on-ones with existing members.
Right. Yeah. People I know well, that there are already people I'm working with, and I love these people, right, as part of the business, and I've been looking out for some of them. I don't know that the people I'm talking about would, a private workout one-on-one. It's, again, saying not pay would be a great way to learn how to be a coach, right? These people already trust me to an extent, so I'm sure some of them would come in and meet me for a workout. So cool.
Yeah, and as you're doing these one-on-ones with people, 2 things that I always encourage my coaches to do is, number 1, figure out that person's why. What do they want and why do they want it?
Right. Because trying to be athletic for a sport and trying to fit into a suit are 2 different things, right? There are a million motivators, and very cool.
Yeah, figure out why they want to be there.
Sure. And then try to lead them from that position, right? It's once you know what their carrot is, you go.
Exactly. You know dangle in front of them. Any final questions?
Boy, I don't think so. I think this is really productive. I've got a couple things I can work towards, and no, I don't think so. So thank you so much for your time. This I felt a little lost, and now I have a couple things, destinations I can work towards. So thank you very much.
And if you have any questions, you know where to find me. All right.
Hey, thanks a lot, Coach. See you later.
Bye.